So today we have here, this is the Redmi Note 11. I did an unboxing, I'll link that down below. And this is my full review of the device. So I want to start out by talking about the hardware and specs of this thing. Okay, so to start off, it uses a Snapdragon 680 6nm processor. It uses a 6.43 1080p 90Hz display with up to 180Hz touch sampling rate, with a wide color gamut, 700 nit HBM brightness with peak brightness of about 1000. Comes in three colors: an aura white, or like twilight blue, I believe they call it, a black, which you see here, and then a blue. It weighs 179 grams, has Gorilla Glass 3 on the front, and it was IP553 splash proof tested, aka every phone comes with this bad anymore. It just means that it has, if you get rain on it, who cares? It comes in with UFS 2.2 storage with LPDDR4X RAM. It has 4 gigabytes with 64 gigs of storage, 4 128 and 6 120. Now, I have 4 64, and even 4 128 I've seen had this issue. I personally would go 6 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage 100%. And it has MIUI 13 based on Android 11, which I wish it came with Android 12 out of the box, but not going to really complain. It has a 5000 mAh battery with 33 watt Pro fast charger, and it has 33 watt in the box with USB-C charging. Now, this one only has 4G LTE default. It has Bluetooth 5 with regular Wi-Fi 5, NFC depending on region, and an IR blaster. It has a side fingerprint scanner, so built right into the power button. And then it has a face unlock if you decide to use that, with dual speakers, 3.5mm headphone jack, and their linear motor. Now, it also has a 50 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide, 2 megapixel macro, and 2 megapixel depth sensor. And then it has its flash. But I'm not a fan of them having a depth sensor. Like, just take that out. We don't need that at all. Now, going some more around this phone, I thought some performance was good, some performance was bad. So if I open up, let's say, this game, for example, it has its bit of lag, like it loads a bit slower than I would like. I know it could be nitpicking, but UFS 2.2 storage, it has an Exynos, or has a MediaTek 810 instead of a Snapdragon 680, and I felt that Poco M4 Pro runs a bit faster. You can see some lag here. It's just not my favorite thing. I've noticed lag also if I click on a notification, for example, and then I go into and I go back into the app. I've noticed I've had to restart the phone a couple times. This is my personal experience, and I'm not the biggest fan of that happening. Which at all, like if I click here and I go into Twitter, you'll notice how longer it takes to load. I've also noticed that when we go into I've also noticed that if I go into some of the apps that I use, and I'm not close enough to a cell phone tower or even Wi-Fi, let's say I have 2 bars on my Wi-Fi, it'll slow down. And I've also had an issue. I'm right next to my Wi-Fi router, and when I go into an app, it gives me, oh, you have Wi-Fi connection issues. Like, I'm right next to my router. How am I having these issues of Wi-Fi connectivity? Of all things, Wi-Fi connectivity. Now, it has an AMOLED display. Beautiful display. But why can't I have this always on display working? So if I go into the settings, And I scroll down, as you can tell, look at that. Always on display and lock screen. Always on display. Okay, I don't want wallpaper carousel. Stop bothering me about that. 10 seconds after tapping. There is no other always on display option. And as what? Why is this always on display black? Like, I have my theme set to bright to dark light mode. As you can see, I have it all set to light mode, and still. Now, it gets bright enough. If I go to dark mode, it looks... See, that was... Wow, that lag bit. It's fun. Like, I guess some parts of it are fun, some parts of it are bad, though I do recommend 6/128, and if you get the 464 and you get lag, you heard it from me first. Charging 33 watts, pretty fast. I like it. I think it's great. No complaints there. No complaints on calling, sound, display. Watching YouTube videos looks great. I think it looks beautiful. Like, let's say I go in here and I click search and I'm going to do 4K HDR because even though it can only run 1080p, I'll still like to test this. Let's get this over here. I'll pause this. We'll go into settings. Now, it doesn't have HDR on the display, sadly, but oh my God. If I go like this, look at that lag. Settings. Okay, I'm just trying to show you. Yeah, it lagged just before when I was trying to do this and I had to restart the video to get it to work. So you can tell some things aren't working properly sometimes. Beautiful display, beautiful black levels. Sadly, no HDR, so it's not going to have that vibrant, punchy look, but it still looks vibrant enough for HDR. Sound is great on this device. Now, one thing that this device falls extremely short of is its camera. Now, I've used it a couple times. I took it on a little trip with me, and no, it makes the darker areas in the image don't get boosted the way they're supposed to, and they look dark. So if I'm looking at an image or trying to take an image through a little bit of a darker area where my eyes can see every detail perfectly, this device captures it. And it makes it really, really low. You have to have really adequate lighting to get it to work. Now, if I go in here, let me see. You can see here how the screen itself of a TV, it didn't give an adequate brightness reduction and all this other stuff. All around it, it's a bit darker on the side than what the image actually looks like for real. And the screen itself is too bright. It doesn't compensate properly for the images. Like right here, for example, this is brighter than it was, and it still made the image look way too dark. As you can tell, the image looks darker around some of the edges than I would have liked to see. You can tell that right over here. The top area is darker. This area, my camera's compensating somehow or another. But some of the darker areas are too dark. And then you have your other images. Why does this keep swiping it away? That when I show this, look really bright enough. They look bright, you can tell the details, so if I zoom in, it looks a bit blurry, but it works. This is using a Samsung sensor inside of it. They have a 50 megapixel sensor, and this sensor is actually supposed to show off the light properly. Now this image, I actually had to take with flash on to even be able to get it to expose properly in a room where if I took this with another camera, hell, even this for example, if I took it with this phone, It would actually bright it properly. It would show you the proper brightness. Now look at video right here. Look at how grainy that looks. Why? Yes, I don't care. Just want to show you.
There aren't any places left to sit.
See, if I go like this, look how grainy. This is, you can see the lighting condition. And this is stock camera, and it looks so grainy here. You can see. Look at that. That's nothing I want to see. Another grainy image, and this is properly lit too. This camera system itself, going through it and taking photos, isn't the best. Look, outdoors, this is supposed to be a bit brighter than it was, but you can't really make out the details. Here, that's how it's properly, actually how it's probably supposed to look. Can't make the details in the bus properly, and you zoom in, and it's still dark over here. And then if you see an ultra wide, this is where it compensates properly. This is what the photo is supposed to look like. Like shadow, yes, I understand a bit. But this part of the image is what's supposed to look like, where I can actually make out part of this. But no, it turns out to be this. Why? Why? Some indoor images, they look fine. And then some, they look a bit darker. I don't know why it's doing this. And then also I've noticed that when I go like this and then I try to go back, sometimes it doesn't do it and I have to really force it. And then as you can tell, sometimes back is too far back. Like I'm just here trying to find things. Sometimes the images look fine, sometimes they don't. It's just one of those mixed bags that I'm not a fan of this camera at all. Like, that's my problem. And another issue is if I click here, animations, there is none. So you just click on it, click on something, and you go back, click on it, and you can see it opens up. Since it's a budget phone, there are no animations, but I can go like this. Hold it, and that's all you get. So if you hold it up top, that's all you get again. You don't have any special feature. You don't even have split screen. You don't have any of that stuff. You can't get it back. This phone itself is a mixed bag. You have the Redmi Note 10 Pro for about the same price right now, and you have $180 for this phone for global. And then you can have this phone, the Poco M4 Pro, which get subscribed because review is coming soon. Also 33 watt charger in the box, 33 watt Pro, 4 or 6 gigs of RAM, 50 megapixel camera, which actually takes better photos, and an 8 megapixel ultra wide on this one. All the same type of, basically some similar stuff to this with the different camera sensor itself. Similar stuff to this but this one has a MediaTek 810. Now, this one though I have seen to run even smoother than this. When my previous device that I had, when I was testing for like 2 days before, I had an issue. So, I mean, it's up to you. I don't like this device, but people are saying that they're getting smooth enough performance. But they're coming from old phones with like maybe 2 gigs of RAM, an old Snapdragon 480, or just like a really old 4-year-old device at this point. Coming from a really old device like a Redmi Note 5 Pro or 5 Pro or the Redmi 6 or something, if you're coming from that series and below, just pick up this device. But, I mean, you have other phones. If you don't care about custom ROMs, M4 Pro, basically same price, has 5G built into it, and I think it's just better. If you care about custom ROMs, we'll see what this community brings because of how cheap this phone is, and it has a Snapdragon into it. But, I mean, My recommendation, don't get this device. Buy the M4 Pro or Note 10 Pro. But if you did like this video, please rate, comment, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and just enjoy the rest of your day.